Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Post Morning Show. I'm your host, rdizzle408. Today is Wednesday, August 6, 2025. Our topics for the day are Obamagate. How did it all start? Does anyone know? 2. What is the smoking gun evidence? Is there any? 3. Epstein. Clinton subpoenaed. Who else got a subpoena? Let's dive in. Okay, folks, I've taken the 2.5-hour, 3-part series, the docudrama, The Enemy Within, starring former Overstock.com CEO Patrick Byrne and General Flynn, and condensed it into a 5-minute clip. So I know it's early, but please grab some popcorn, pork rinds, even better. Sit back and enjoy. All right. Okay. If I was Mark Halperin, I'd say play clip A, please. Clip A. Do we have clip A? Play clip A. Okay, playing clip A. Unsupported file format. Okay, all right, hang tight. This is why we test things before the show. Let me open up the media player here.
Reporting to Director Comey.
Okay, sorry about that little bug, guys. Oh. Okay, and that's clip B, not clip A.
Reporting to Director Comey.
There's clip A. All right, we'll have to share the media player instead. Screens. Share sound. Here we go.
Reporting to Director Comey. And they were fully aware of Maria's movements. They knew about her the day she came. They knew about everything she did. They had me opening the doors for her to do some of it. They knew about most of the things she did before she did them. So they were using Maria to smudge up the Republican Party. And they were using me to use Maria to smudge up the Republican Party. It was real third world stuff. So when Maria Butina asked candidate Donald Trump that famous question in July 2015,
go ahead. My question will be about foreign politics. If you would be elected as a president,
the feds were already all over her, I promise. I had reported her 2 days earlier to Washington, D.C.
My country.
In autumn of early 2015, then candidate Chris Christie reached out to me. He was going to be in New Hampshire and he wanted to meet me. So I let them know, and my handler said, take Maria Butina to your meeting with Chris Christie. Around Thanksgiving of 2015, my handlers messaged me for a meeting where I was to learn that the FBI needed my help on something more important going on. They needed me to set up a bribe on Hillary Clinton.
There are 2 groups in the FBI investigating Secretary Clinton. One group looking into her emails. It's whitewash. We all know it. But the second group into her finances. And these agents, they really want to get her.
We can't have agents running around creating crimes. Our target would be drawn into a trap.
You have to be able to prove that that person has performed at least one or more predicate acts.
Information has surfaced. She just accepted a rather large donation from a foreign government.
You're kidding? From who? Our New York agents used that as the predicate act. Forced Comey to sign off on setting up a sting. Okay. So what am I? Turns out that Azerbaijan wants to bribe Secretary Clinton.
Mr. Byrne, you are to create the following end state. Somewhere in this world, there will be a room. Secretary Clinton will step into that room. Our bagman from Azerbaijan will also be in that room. They will spend a total of 10 minutes together, alone, in that room. Then leave separately from that room.
All the business I've ever done with the United States government has been done on a handshake. Less paper trail, the better. Something like this. Screwing with a federal election, bribing a presidential candidate, no. For this, I'm gonna need one of those acts, otherwise illegal letters. From the top.
I was just telling Special Agent. Don't this place remind you of it, though? Do you remember that game?
It's Orfeo at Eurydice. Orpheus and Eurydice? From the myth of Orpheus?
Have you even played, dude? Diablo?
I've been instructed to inform you that you cannot be given a letter. But if you come to DC, the director can show you a letter.
And this comes from Director Comey? You mean it comes from the director and tell the director and the president that it's good enough for me? Consider Hillary bribed.
Director Brennan has taken control of everything relating to Russia.
President Obama has people all throughout the federal bureaucracy, especially the DOJ. Hillary Clinton is going to be president for 8 years.
Right, nothing can stop that. I remember from the last meeting.
Do you remember Bunsen burners from chemistry class? It's a little dial.
Yeah.
These 2 investigations are going to sit on a Bunsen burner at the DOJ, and the hand on that dial will belong to one of Obama's people. And she's a good girl. That flame will stay low. She's a bad girl. Starts thinking for herself. Hand on that dial will turn the flame higher. You get my meaning? Secretary Clinton is going to be president, managed by Barack Obama. And then she'll step down. And then Michelle's going to run. And that, Patrick, is the plan.
I was told later that that was called Operation Snow Globe, and Hillary Clinton was to be president for 8 years from a snow globe, and Brennan and Comey and Obama wanted to be able to pick it up and rattle her snow globe anytime they wanted. And that Trump and Putin are meeting, an FBI SWAT team descended on Maria's boyfriend's D.C. apartment.
FBI agents clad in their tactical gear were raiding.
Arrest her after the FBI said it saw signs.
They go and arrest this Russian grad student so they could say, no, there is an actual Russian at the center of our Russian collusion drama. Trump's got to be saying, look, we just arrested one of your spies this morning, and Putin's saying he's not one of our spies, So they got this Russian collusion drama to sell the public, and now every night on TV they got a Russian redheaded spy that they're talking, that they're parading around in courts and so on and so forth. The whole thing was as producer-driven as the Spice Girls. She was just absolutely a prop that they needed to give some substance to the Russian collusion drama. I don't know. Is it just me? Do you share with me like how horrific that is? That's the deep state conducting foreign policy.
Do you recall the Daily Beast article about Maria Butina? She's a Russian grad student, redhead, intellectual, sort of swanking about DC for a while.
Yeah.
Should she emerge as a central figure in the Russian investigation, then the whole thing's a hoax. I first met her about 3 years ago and reported it immediately. They've been following her ever since, trying to make her sort of a central figure in this whole thing.
Okay. Thank you for bearing with me in that 5 minutes of show and tell. So what do folks think about this timeline? Anything new? Operation Snow Globe? Any insights into that?
Can any of that be proved?
Okay, good question, Duke. We're gonna get into that. What do folks think? Anything they've seen? Does it seem provable, or have they heard anything else that they think is provable so far? Okay. All right.
I think if that was provable, there'd be a lot of people in jail right now.
Well, this is it's quite an intense bureaucracy, right? That we're up against. So I guess this begs the question, right? How did Patrick Byrne get involved with the feds in the first place? Okay, this takes us to 2006 and The Big Short and the Senate Judiciary Committee. So we're going to watch an additional clip, just a minute, from The Enemy Within to give context. This is like the prequel to Star Wars, right? We need to grasp who started this and who's going to finish it. I want to preface this clip with a poll from Rasmussen Reports showing 2 out of every 3 voters agree Obamagate requires accountability. Okay, so again, bear with me on the bugs here. Okay, all right. It's a trip down memory lane. I know it's a bit like class, but we got to do it, folks. For the sake of the country, we got to do it.
I know the Patrick who took on the SEC when trading first went digital, and he forced the SEC to change their rules, and that was an unholy battle, because he went up against not just the SEC and all the regulators and Wall Street and the financial press and so on, and he won that battle. And that's not a fantasy. That's not Patrick making that up. That is absolutely verifiable.
A month later, September 2006, I received a phone call telling me to come to D.C. and not to bring anyone, and specifically not to bring any lawyers. Chairman Specter was there, Senator Hatch was there, and that's when Chairman Specter drew the meeting to attention.
As we all know, and as Hatch and I have been explaining to Patrick here, the Senate Judiciary is the ultimate bulwark, protecting the Constitution. We think you're right.
There's waves of relief washed over me. See, until then, newspapers had run photos of me with UFOs coming out of my head and all kinds of nasty names, simply because I had suggested that Wall Street had captured the SEC. But now, after 18 months of banging my head on Washington, D.C., these esteemed senators from both parties had concluded I was correct, not just about Wall Street, but about this cancer that seemed to be spreading throughout Washington, D.C. It was like surfacing after a long swim underwater.
I know. How do we even stop something like this?
Oh, we're going to stop it. Because we have you. You are going to stop it.
That's why you're here. Patrick, you need to do this. Disrupt this corrupt takeover of the United States government.
We don't know how, and we may not be senators when you succeed. Or even alive. Whoops, no offense, Arlen.
None taken, Chet. Son, we need you. This is your life's mission.
No one was asking me anything. They were simply telling me this is what the country needed done, so that's what I was going to be doing with my life.
We are going to be with the president tomorrow night with this letter. This is going to be locked in a safe in D.C. for the rest of your life.
You can't touch it. You can't touch it, son.
Read it carefully. The first paragraph spoke to the Judiciary Committee's concern that, quote, systemic corruption is infiltrating the federal institutions of our national government. And the second paragraph opened with the words, the United States Senate Committee on the Judiciary requests that Patrick Byrne be afforded extraordinary latitude under the laws of the United States of America to pursue his investigations into corruption within the government, or something like that. One of the rare moments in my life I can honestly say my fuse may have been a bit blown for a second.
This isn't a pardon, so you can't kill anybody. But short of that, this will make it unlikely that any prosecutor will ever touch you.
Okay, does that change anyone's opinion of the credibility of Patrick Byrne? Going back to 2006, The Big Short. Did anyone see that movie, The Big Short? Okay, some folks. All right. All right. So before we move on to the smoking gun evidence, okay, what about Maria Butina's motive? This is from Seth Tatina in an article titled The Godfather Goes to Washington. Ever since Hillary compared Putin to Hitler, all senior Russian leaders consider beyond redemption. Wouldn't you with a statement like that? So now then, let's hear from Maria Butina in her own words. All right, the last bit, kind of the last bit. Okay. Oh. Okay, here we go. Where's the screen? I'm trying to hit share. Got to redo it. Here we go.
Hi all, my name is Maria Butina. Most of the things you know about me are untrue. But the things that Patrick says, I think are true. Well, he might forget some things, exaggerate some things, but he gets the general course absolutely right. You probably don't expect these words from me. He betrayed me. He used me as a torpedo, as he says. But you know, he taught me the most important lesson of my life. He taught me what the repentance means. He taught me the most important lesson of God. I forgive him. If you ask me today, but forgiveness, does it mean that I still love him? It's not an easy answer. It cost him everything. His business, his life is in danger today, but he still believes he's the lone wolf, as you Americans say. You know, it reminds me the old Danish fairy tale, Emperor's Clothes, by Hans Christian Andersen, has been translated to more than 100 languages all over the world. We read it here in Russia. It basically means that when the masses are charmed by something, just as a collective mind, and they don't see the obvious, there should be a person, a lone wolf, who steps in and says, look, whatever you believe in is not true, and the emperor has no clothes. That's what Patrick is doing today. And it's not easy for me to say. I has been days and days, more than 100 days on solitary confinement. And I know that at the very beginning, he was not going to fight for my life. In fact, the reverse is true. But then know and trust him now. And you know, don't take every single word of him for granted, but use your own mind to analyze and to figure out what was really going on.
Look, I'm proud of the fact that with 2 weeks to go, we're probably the first administration in modern history that hasn't had a major scandal in the White House.
Okay, so if Maria Butina's sin was speaking to candidates, then what do we say about the Democratic Party's agenda of encouraging non-citizens to confront ICE officers, of Mexican flags being waved to somehow show a desire to remain in the USA? Should foreigners who show up to protest ICE have to register as foreign agents? In fact, the Democratic Party goes out of its way to insist foreigners are not only welcome, but should get involved in politics, and in some jurisdictions can run for office while being non-citizens. Should AIPAC and CARE, that is the American-Israeli Political Action Committee, and the Council on American Islamic Relations register as foreign lobbying firms? No. My hypocrisy meter is going off the charts here. What do folks think about all of this? Do people know this stuff? I learned it from the enemy within. Okay, I'm going to call on my friend Andrew Tawani, who's joined us today.
So no, I have not seen the movie. So everything you just showed is all pretty new to me. I can't comment on that, but what I will say about all this is I think it's worth paying attention to some of the reporting that the New York Post has been doing on it. Also, Matt Taibbi has been on this, and Matt Taibbi has been following this story for almost a decade now, really, and pretty much, he used to be part of Rolling Stone's team of reporters, and he got pushed out of there as a consequence of his doggedness on this issue. Anyway, I would follow the New York Post reporting and compare it to some of the other liberal outlets' coverage of it, because it's very different. And just remember what the Post did just 4 or 5 years ago with Hunter Biden's laptop, and how they were dismissed summarily by everybody. And so I'd say stay on this. But for me right now, it's too hard to make a call one way or another. But there's definitely some smoke there.
Andrew, if you could remind the YouTube viewers and the younger audience, what did the Post say about the laptop, and what was the response to the Post?
Well, I mean, the Post reported the existence of the laptop, which it obtained through a source. I believe that source ended up being Rudy Giuliani, if I'm not mistaken, or he may have facilitated that in some way. But the response was a letter from, I think it was 51 intelligence officers, members of the intelligence community, saying that was Russian disinformation. And I think that happened. I think the report itself came out 2 to 3 weeks before the election, and that letter from the intelligence community was days later. So we're talking about right in that final run up to the 2020 election.
Okay, thank you for that, Andrew. Claudio.
I mean, for the gravity of the events that are quoted and allegedly happen, let's keep allegedly to prevent you having some lawyers that arrive at your program. The thing is that if this all stuff is true, it has the same impact of what has been hidden regarding the Vietnam War during the Kennedy government and the Johnson government. The reality of how many they were killed as Americans by a group of people that used just bamboo and some old guns to smash one of the most strongest army of the United States. It has that kind of impact. And I think that when they said that one of the candidates was bribed, corrupted, and the Russian line, and then you listen like that the other candidate has taken money from the Azerbaijan, you say, well, you have complained about a guy that was a pro-Russian and then has been one of the guys that put the most of sanctions of them and give javelin to Ukraine, and now finally after 6 months decided to do the right choice. And then you were saying about Biden and these people that she was in favor of America, this and that. I don't know. It makes me more skeptic about the fiber of the Democratic Party, and part also of the fiber of, I would not say deep state, because who are these people, but regarding how bureaucracy and all that stuff can be so tentacular or have so much power. Because there are too many people that say, no, it's not fault of the bureaucrats, the judges, this and that. It's fault of the political class. No, it's too much easy to say it's always fault of the political class. Because we have to understand that democracy is not just the political class. Just in autocracy, autocracy is just about the political class. In democracy, you have pressure groups, lobbyists, as I say, judges, you have bureaucracy, you have people in the middle way, like Patrick Byrne, we can say in some way. You cannot dismiss something that is just fault of the political class.
Thank you for that.
Too easy. Sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Had you heard about this Operation Snow Globe? Maybe I just want to say this for folks, right? I do remember Patrick Byrne alleging that he got Hillary Clinton to take a bribe. And of course, back then, like I would always do, I would share that information out, and then you would hear crickets back. And so it just like totally went over my head. But to hear that, okay, Obama was going to set up Hillary and then run her from the back, that was like, oh goodness, what is going on?
No, I was aware of the thing that Wall Street, as to quote something in the, I don't think it was in the Big Short, this quote. I think it was in the second movie of Wall Street, but the fact that Wall Street became socialist, they asked for a bailout after the financial crisis. I didn't know that it was so deep, and honestly, I didn't know that the pressure on from these companies was this big, because in a normal situation like that, some companies that are able to rise from the sea will say, hey, we will survive, you will fail, that's it, bye bye. Instead, it didn't happen that, because many people say, no, it's too much, it's too big to fail, no, you will destroy the skeleton of the American society, because retirees will find themselves without money, Black Americans will find themselves without houses. To be honest, no. What they were defending the people having shares on that stuff. People still lost houses, and people still lost their retirements. Probably would have happened the opposite if there was any bailout at all, because the law constrained these people that until they have money, obtain money, they have to give to every person that invested on that money for after their failing. Instead, they didn't see that. And to see that this thing can be connected with what happened under Bush government, and that Obama defended continuing the bailouts, for me is sick. It's really weird.
Yes. It's quite counter to the image of Obama as the working man's hero. Now, Duke, are you ready for the smoking gun evidence?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is going to close out our topic. This is the last part of it. Okay. Whether it's smoking gun is going to be up to you guys to determine, or I guess a grand jury. But give me a second here. It's probably going to play automatically, so I'm going to have to do that.
The 10% reason.
Okay. All right. Kind of sounded like Dean there for a second. Okay. Here we go.
The 10% reason I reported her was I already had deep suspicions about the people I was working for. This is the perfect opportunity. This innocent, young, idealistic grad student, I'm going to just play along. I'm going to give her exactly what she wants. I'm going to give my government handlers exactly what they want. Let's see how this plays out. And that's ultimately my real mission. Some report on that was going to go to the bowels of the deep state. They were going to either have to stop what we were working on and this coup that involved bribing Hillary and a fake Russian hoax and using this girl, Maria, or some demon in the depths of the deep state is going to have to sign off on the aggravated rape and possible murder of a woman they knew to be innocent, but that it had never actually happened.
Okay, so I left out some earlier stuff there, some earlier scenes, but what goes on in the docudrama is that Byrne reports to his agents that he essentially raped Maria Butina. Okay, obviously it didn't happen, right? But as far as the agents were concerned, the rape did occur, and Byrne claims that buried in these classified reports, that is going to come out. So not a smoking gun, maybe or maybe not. I don't know. Any thoughts on that before we go on to our next topic here? Frank is giving me a poker face, I think. Okay. All right.
When you refer to that as a docudrama, I mean, is this a made up story? Is there anything to back this up? Is that what they're investigating? If there's anything to back this up?
So, Duke, thank you for asking about that. In The Enemy Within, the two real characters are Patrick Byrne and General Flynn. General Flynn appears in the end, and it's a really funny scene. If any Seinfeld fans here, and you remember who was Costanza's boss in New York? Who's the famous New York Yankees? Steinbrenner.
Yeah.
Right, and the shot of and you got Steinbrenner at the back of his head, and he's like, right, and they just show him, and I think it's Larry David playing Steinbrenner, but it looks like Trump in the scene in Enemy in the Enemy Within when they're talking about the 2020 election. But this is a 3-part series, and Patrick Byrne, obviously the 2006 stuff is totally credible. I mean, at least according to Lara Logan, right? That Patrick Byrne did effect policy changes regarding the SEC. The cause of the Big Short was, the example he gives is the stock exchange may have 500,000 stocks that it can loan out. It was loaning them out to multiple entities, right? It was doing all sorts of chicanery. That's what Patrick Byrne was blowing the whistle on. And then that's where he claims that there's a letter, top secret or whatever, from the Senate Judiciary Committee granting him these powers. The reason I put this all together, Duke, is because I don't think anyone, I mean, who has the time to sit through a 2.5 hour series, right? So.
Well, I remember when now didn't Trump nominate Flynn for an office?
You're talking about the scandal in the beginning, or?
Yeah.
That's right.
And you know, when all that, you know, when they questioned him and you know, pretty much ruined his life, I thought all that was very suspicious, that it just kind of came out of nowhere. You know, I know Trump was not familiar with the inner workings of DC. He puts him in this position, and God, he was only in it for a couple of weeks. And you know, then all of a sudden they just came in and literally ruined his life of a very distinguished general. I just thought that was very strange. I was very uncomfortable with it when it happened. I do remember that much.
And Duke, I'm ashamed to admit that I couldn't go with the binary that, oh my God, they're going after Flynn. Okay, Flynn must be right. He must be on top of something. I had to, because back then there was no two-way, there was none of this interaction. So then you find these alt media figures that go, no, Flynn, he's really like a double, triple agent, right? And oh, Roger Stone, he's a double, triple. And so if they just further muddied the waters, George Papadopoulos, all I thought was, oh, Greek guy, you know, I don't know, sounds like a spy, maybe is a spy. And so it just prevented me from doing any due diligence. And George Papadopoulos is on Twitter, Patrick Byrne is on Twitter, General Flynn is on Twitter. And I thanked General Flynn way back when, and whether he replied or not, it was like, okay, he liked that, or he replied, oh, thank you, whatever. There was some interaction. But then after that, I was like, oh no, I don't know about this Flynn guy. So now I'm like doing a double take on everything, and things are starting to at least line up in my mind that, okay, you know, and then I'm also doing a double take on, wait, Obama and Hillary, they're not really pals, are they?
Right. And back then, this is what, this it started off at 06, but 16.
Yes.
People still kind of a little bit trusted the press, and you know, there was enough muddy water there that if you lean to the right side of believing, then you're like, oh, okay, and you don't pursue it. You know, it's like, well, that's okay, that's what they said. You know, then when you get to the Hunter Biden laptop, hell, I knew that was true from the get-go. But this might be a more interesting can of worms than I had originally thought.
Okay, thank you, Duke. I can't tell here, but I've been sweating a little bit. I'm like, okay, I hope the group can hang with me here. So I appreciate you sticking with me on this. Would folks like to, or Duke, would you want to add anything else before we go to the next topic?
Well, you know, it's going to be real interesting. I wish this is what they were talking about at Vance residence tonight rather than the Epstein files, because I could give a crap about that, regardless of who's in it, whether it's Trump or anybody else. But This one, where there's smoke, there's fire, and the press was running cover, and now we know what the mainstream press is all about. There may be more to this than what I had thought. I just hope they can prove something, and they can get one, and he turns. You may get them all,
Yeah,
or they may die.
Who's the it's not Comey.
Brennan.
I don't think it's the guy the bald guy. Is it Clapper? I thought one of them is like pointing to Obama. I've seen it where he goes, well, Obama's the one that was telling us to do this.
Yeah, I don't seen that part. Where might that letter be?
Right? This is
somebody's get out of jail free card.
That's right. That's right. That's right. These are the documents we hope are coming out from these burn bags or what have you.
That ain't in a burn bag. That's in somebody's safe. Huh. Maybe a copy, but the original's in somebody's safe.
That's right. That's what's alleged in the series there. I'm going to ask again our gentleman from Massachusetts to close out this topic because I know he has questions or maybe something to state.
Well, I don't know. This is the TV show or something like that you're talking about, not the movie from 19.
No, this is a movie, 3-part movie, 50 minutes each. The Enemy Within.
Released when?
Oh boy, this came out, I think, 2021. When was The Enemy Within? It's been a while, actually.
All right. Okay, so I have to do things between 10 and 10:15, so I came late.
Okay, yeah. It came out.
So that's why closing this thing out, you better just rewind the tape and delete this portion.
Okay, no problem. We may be able to get back to it. I did have. Let me see if I can do this without playing the tape. Okay. I'll just, for you, Frank, I would like to review the timeline because I think it's just important to have, because this is, again, I know it's frustrating for folks like, oh, we're going back to old issues, but the news has suppressed this. So if we don't bring it up, right, no one is going to be able to talk about it. Okay, so this is what I had for my timeline. Okay, Maria Butina and Patrick Byrne first meet July 2015. The feds are tracking Maria's movements by July 19th, 2015 Freedom Fest. By August 2015, Comey has Byrne smudging up the Republican Party by exploiting Maria Butina. Hillary Clinton allegedly takes the bribe late 2015. Later in 2015, agents tell Patrick Byrne, prior to what they believe will be a Hillary Clinton victory, that this is Obama's Operation Snow Globe. On June 17, 2018, Maria Butina's boyfriend is arrested, casting a shadow on Trump and Putin's joint press conference. On July 15, 2018, Maria Butina is arrested and held in solitary confinement for over 100 days. No Russian spy network has been revealed to date. In August of 2019, Byrne tells then Congressman, now CIA Director John Ratcliffe, if Butina becomes the central figure, you know it's a hoax. So that's the timeline, Frank.
Well, okay. And what am I supposed to make of that?
Nothing, just wondering if it's anything new or if that's kind of the sense you had of the situation.
No, I don't know. I know that there's a Russian attorney who talked to Trump about, adoption or something like this in Trump Tower, during the campaign or something like this. And that's all I knew about Russian involvement with the Trump campaign. Now there's hundreds of other encounters, and I hope they were smart enough to play by the rules and realize that they shouldn't accept things. And I guess the investigation determined that was the case. So, but as far as this plot to hassle Trump and to ruin his administration and this kind of thing, that's just totally disgusting. It's terrible. And and I don't know to what extent there's any kind of crime involved. Other than possibly lying to Congress, which is, I'm not sure that's a crime, but it's punishable, or prosecutable. And anyway, I don't know whether the Congress should get involved in this. Maybe they should have hearings. I think that may be a more appropriate thing, but that might mess up their midterms, and they don't want to do it. So these are all questions that I would have regarding this situation. I hate to see the justice system used for this unless there's some actual crime involved. So, and it's awfully late too. The statute of limitations, possibly has run on most of this stuff. So anyway, so that's in this continuing conspiracy that is arguable, but it just is a total mess, and that's why I think Congress should look into it if they can get their stuff together to do it, and it won't hurt them too much.
Okay, thank you for that, Frank. And Duke, ironically, you provided me a segue to the Epstein's latest. Unfortunately, this came up in the news, so
one more thing I'd like to add. I think we should take these names and put them on like a bingo card, and if things start to heat up, as these people mysteriously die off, and see who wins the bingo game.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. We gotta be able to laugh at all this craziness, right? So that takes us to our last topic, okay, which is the House Oversight Committee issues subpoenas for Epstein files. 3 Republicans expanded the subpoenas for prominent figures who held their positions during the lengthy investigation into Epstein. Those receiving subpoenas include Bill Clinton, who was acquainted with Epstein, Hillary Clinton, former Special Counsel Mueller, former FBI Director Comey, former Attorneys General Merrick Garland, William Barr, Jeff Sessions, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, and Alberto Gonzalez. This is from the New York Times, just published yesterday, actually. So how do you like them apples? As a side note, I encourage the viewer to read the article and notice how many times the paper of record calls President Trump Mr. Trump, even though he currently holds office. The lack of basic standards by the New York Times continues to mar the media landscape. So, if Trump was still somehow, after all these years, mysteriously conspiring with Epstein, do folks now agree that those subpoenaed will call out President Trump if he indeed is a malicious actor in the Epstein scandal? Claudio, with your hand up.
No, because what the New York Times is demonstrating is that what Alan Dershowitz wrote in the Wall Street Journal some weeks ago is true then. Otherwise, these people will not be all subpoenaed. And Dershowitz himself said that despite all the meetings that he had with Epstein, nothing went more in detail than simple meetings. He didn't never go to his home, to his island, in this, in that, in other stuff again. And also another thing is that too many people are confounding the role that the father of Ghislaine Maxwell had in the past with what Epstein does. But it doesn't mean that because the father of Ghislaine Maxwell was working with the Mossad also, his husband works for them. In my opinion, all these subpoenas will just demonstrate that I allow me to quote a second Megyn Kelly, there is not a client list, but there is a list of clients. In the sense there have been people that had more than one contact with Sir, I would not say Sir, but with Mr. Epstein, and they did weird stuff with him. But I will think that with the grand jury, all the stuff finally will have some transparency. And people will understand that the reason why there's never been a client's list is for a simple reason. If he did a crime, he will not leave a trail of the crimes that he did. Let's be honest.
Thank you for that, Claudio. Any other thoughts about this? I mean, is this gonna? I was just surprised by the list of attorney generals that were subpoenaed. It's quite lengthy. Going back to Alberto Gonzalez. Well, that gives us. Oh, Claudia, did you raise your hand again? Or Professor Kenny?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
So, this isn't going to go anywhere. This is just a ploy to turn it around on the Democrats that, hey, because Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton they're not going to testify. You know what I mean? They're not going to come forward. So this gives Trump a little bit of an out on saying, see, we tried to bring people forward, but because they're not going to push it that far. You know what I mean? They're not going to hold them in contempt and all of this crap. They want this all to go away. So this is all a ploy. The key to these listen, Bill Clinton, he's in those flight logs 26 times over a 2-year period, right? And he claimed that the reason why he was going to Epstein's Island and flying with him was because of his foundation, which could very well be a legitimate argument. He would need to produce the productivity of those 26 flights and how much money went into his foundation. But for me, with this whole thing, and this is such an unfortunate, really terrible episode in American history and in life, these poor young girls. But unless these young girls come forward and say, Bill Clinton raped me, Donald Trump raped me, what are we doing here? This guy Epstein's dead. You're not going to get any justice here. Maxwell's in jail. She didn't give anybody up when she went to jail. She didn't try and make a deal for herself when she went to jail. So I just think it's very unfortunate, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
What else, Professor Kenny, is on your mind? You thinking about the midterms? You thinking about cost of living?
I could tell you this about the midterms. I'm sorry. You said what's funny, Raul, is I'll show my video. If I can show myself, yeah. Yeah. Let's see if it shows me. There we go. You said, how about them apples? And I was eating an apple.
Nice.
Anyway, here's the thing, what I think about the midterms. I've yet to this to me, this is unbelievable. We are in August, right? And the Democrats are still polling, their favorables are still below 30%. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Still below 30%. So the common thread is that, well, when the midterms come, it always goes back to the other party. They regain some seats and all of this because of dissatisfaction. Here's my thought process. People are going to look around and they're going to say, am I going to turn from Trump, the Trump voters, I'll say, am I going to turn from Trump to go back to the Democrats after what they gave me with Biden for 4 years? Do I think there's somebody, or do I think the Democratic Party is going to be able to fix whatever the problem is, affordability, whatever it is? Or are they just going to say, you know what, Trump's trying to do something with these deals with these countries, and we just need time to let this stuff play in? Also, I think, and people don't really give this a lot of credence, I still think those social issues, which are very minuscule in practice, but in terms of people's thought process and morality, or whatever you want to say, weigh very big. So they say, do I want to go back to, do I want AOC and, the squad, and do I want male, biological males to go back to playing sports against female? You know what I mean? I think people are going to look at that and say, you know what, we're just going to stand pat with what we got. It's almost like, the dissatisfaction with Kamala, I had no choice but to vote for Trump kind of thing. I just think I think people are going to be surprised. I don't think there's going to be this blue wave because the Democrats have yet to offer anything. And I'm listening. Offer me something. And I'm listening and I'm getting nothing. Absolutely nothing. And there's still, the Mamdanis of the world are just going to sink the Democrats even further into the abyss. So, it's interesting. And if the Republicans can get their act together and message better, then they'll come out way on top. But I just don't see a move from the Democrats. It's still early, but I don't see anything yet.
And Professor Kenny, did you catch this? It must have been a couple of days ago on 2A Tonight. Kayvon Shroff or whatever was pushing back that, Zohran Mamdani, he's an outlier, and no mainstream Democrat has endorsed him. And then the other day, Elizabeth Warren is campaigning with Mamdani, right?
Right. But here's the thing: I was thinking about that, and I think I put this in the chat on the 2A yesterday when they showed that. I mean, that's the poster child for why the Democrats are not regaining their footing. Is just to show Elizabeth Warren, with Mamdani. That sums it up. All you need to know. You might as well just throw AOC on the other side of Mamdani, and that's your Democratic Party. And that's not center. That's not mainstream. So I just think you're going to see a lot of people hold the line or not vote. And that's the only chance I think Democrats have if we take it from today. Like if today was voting day, is they'd need to hope that people just don't come out and vote and that their enthusiasm carries the day, because they are polling at about 77% in terms of enthusiasm. But these are Democratic voters. But yet across the country, Democrats poll below 30% favorability. So I don't know. It's gonna. I just don't see a comeback. Not yet. So.
Yeah. Yep. I get that sentiment, Professor Claudio. Oh, sorry, Duke. Did you have something there?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think the midterms are going to hinge on which way the big beautiful bill shifts. If it shifts to the positive, I think the Republicans come out pretty well. If it shifts to the negative, I think they'll get hurt pretty bad. To your comment about Mamdani being a lone wolf, you got a lady in Washington State that's doing the same thing on the same platform, and I think there's one in Minnesota running the exact same platform. So I mean, and there's just such. And it's all the younger people who had to live through the financial crisis of '08 and that now are now adults, and they see this big gap. I bought my first house in 1983 for $50,000. It's a 3-bedroom, 1,200 square feet. That same house now would probably sell for 200. So I just, they've gotten the short end of the stick for a while now, and it's just going to get worse with AI coming, taking jobs. If you're 35, 38 years, 40 years old, do you really want to go try to be a plumber? Probably not. But yeah, I'll turn it over to Claudia.
Yeah, for me, is that what I noticed that is been a shift which, as Kenny said, it will bring more seats on the Republican side. Is also a fact that happened in California. That, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger, do you remember, was one of the most ardent Trump critics, and slowly starting instead to say, no, it's fair that we say on The View that when a person comes from another country, comes here as a host, they should respect the rules, it should come legally. I think that should be obvious. But another thing is that he's starting to be very critical of Newsom. And it's strange for a former governor that also comes from a different brand of the Republican Party. We can also say pre-Romney, also more than pre-Romney, and also a lot purple in a governorship sense. Is starting to become more Trumpian. I think that even moderate Republicans are trying to say, hey, look, we need to collaborate with Trump. We have to accept that the fusionism of this century of the Republican Party, it's a bit of conservatism and populism. And what we can do is do a simple thing. We have to push on the regulation of what we can. We have to simplify taxation to also avoid certain special privileges to certain lobbies that now are pressing Trump. Sorry a second.
Bless you.
Thank you. And they need to go on this side, because if I will be able or to have more than the 51 seats majority in the Senate, or to have more than the 52% majority in the House, they can do a lot of stuff, which will never make them need anymore the votes of all the Democrats, except guys like Fetterman or someone also less, how can I say, ideologized than Schumer or others. The moderate Democrats will say, hey, we are all alone. We try to do all that is really bipartisan in Trump, and that's it. We don't care about what Housey, what Crockett, the other people will say of that. Bye and kiss of death.
Thank you, Claudio. Professor.
Yeah, so my whole take on Gavin Newsom, right? When you watch him on a podcast, he's outstanding, right? He's a good-looking guy. He speaks like he's from the neighborhood, all of that crap. So now let's look at his record. When he came in as governor of California, California had a budget surplus. Now California's at 68 billion in the hole. They can't put out fires. They have problems with their water. Immigration is strangling them to the point that at one point in time, Newsom took the homeless off the street and hid them in San Francisco because I think she or somebody was coming through, right? So he hid them to show, you know what I mean? So what'll happen to this guy is he won't get to the Republicans. The Democrats will eat him alive. Like an AOC will destroy him, in a debate, just on his record. So yes, Dan Turrentine likes to say, he's at least he's fighting, but this is all politics. It's all bullshit. You know what I mean? It's utterly ridiculous. But he wanted to be governor of California, which is not an easy thing to do. And you know what? You got to own that, buddy. So I Newsom will never get out. He'll never get out of Democratic. And if he does, he'll get destroyed. So J.D. Vance would put him in his pocket. It wouldn't even be close.
Thank you for that, Professor. Yeah, we have a comment here from one of our YouTube viewers that Law and Order is raising more money in California than political operatives right now. And so, that shows maybe the mood is finally shifting a bit, right? What else on the morning? Sorry, Professor, did you have a comment on that? On the morning meeting, I didn't get a chance to tune in. Was there any hot topic, any brouhaha this morning? Did Mark Halpin provide any insights for folks?
I can't even remember what we talked about.
How was the chat?
We went into the gerrymandering and the redistricting. They talked about that for, how both sides do it and whatever. But Sean did say he's concerned on the Republican side that this could start a wave where we could come out, the Republicans could come out below instead of on top. So
I see. If Democrats,
right, if like Pritzker and Newsom and other states redistrict and win, then this could topple whatever the Republicans are doing in Texas. The problem is, I think Mark brought this up, is he just doesn't see how legally it can be done. That these people, and that's what he brought up with Newsom. He said, Newsom's out on a ledge right now because he's acting like he's going to do this. Well, what if he doesn't succeed in doing it and he wants to run for president? People could just point at him and say, look, this guy said he was going to do this and he didn't succeed in doing it. He didn't help, that, and that's on the primary side, on the Democratic side. Dan Turrentine's argument is, well, he still showed that he was fighting for it. Whatever. If you're a loser, you're a loser. That's the way I look at it.
Okay, all right. So that was our midterms update. We have a few more minutes left. If there's anything else folks want to drop on the live, otherwise we can take it down and then kind of get into the nitty gritty. Frank, did you unmute there?
Yeah. Well, another thing is that this electoral map in Texas is based upon Latino voting for Trump, and the down ballot implications from that. And this is something that they can't be assured of in the future. So it's dangerous to take a district which is, I don't know, 80-20 or something like that and change it to 60-40. This was a point made a couple of days ago. And if it becomes 60-40, given 2024's results, then it could easily become very competitive in the future when the Democratic Party gets back to getting its old base back. So I think that's the main risk involved in the Texas redistricting. But hey, listen, I want to see a vibrant Democratic Party, and well, anyway. So there's that. And also regarding the midterms, it's always about the representatives who are running. And it's not necessarily a national mood thing, but it has to do with the local election races. And so those had to be analyzed. Sure, there's a wave possibility with the big, beautiful bill, which is, this whole thing is risky. There's potential risks involved in tariffs and things like this. And it could go sideways or downwards, but the risks come with the promise of some rewards, and that's why you take the risk. But it is a risk. So anyway, so this could be a national wave effect, but really all the races are local, and those need to be analyzed. So.
Frank, am I naive in thinking that ideally districts would just kind of be the national, natural geography of an area, so that you would expect that, this South Bay would have one representative, or North Bay, East Bay, to use the San Francisco Bay Area as an example, or like in Texas, the Rio Grande Valley would have one representative rather than it's split in three. Is that naive of me, or is that something that we should be aspiring to?
Well, I would like to see something like that, or you could have a statewide, runoff, or statewide ranking of candidates. But then that's really hard, because then the candidate has to, campaign the entire state, and so there's all kinds of problems associated with that as well.
Now, what about this still thing about the racial, and maybe Trump is playing into it, I don't know, but this idea that, we've got to have a minority representative. I still don't get that in 2025, while we're still looking at a racial lens, at districts in a racial lens.
Did he say that?
No, maybe I'm misunderstanding what I heard from Trump. I guess the Supreme Court is going to be ruling on this as well, right? About districts being race-based.
Oh, I don't know. The Supreme Court would, state courts and the Supreme Court would, rule against, things which are too crazy or too contorted. And your idea of having a community-based representation or districts, sounds very reasonable. But I guess there's no way to force that.
That's a good point. Good point. Claudio.
I think that one of the problem of the community-based is that it can give too much ideological constriction to the candidates. Because if you have a Scandinavian community, you will be constrained to have a kind of Scandinavian ideology. So you cannot be, for example, too much fiscal conservative in certain stuff, and you cannot be too much religious on other things, for example. Or you can also be that if you have to be fiscal conservative, you have to be the kind of fiscal conservative that in some way has to accept that some welfare state can exist. So you cannot say, I will be fiscal conservative cutting welfare on the state level. I have to be a kind of fiscal conservative guy that has to raise taxes to keep the accounts on balance. And this could be problematic. But in general, another problem is that if the objective is to make this district competitive, they cannot be community-based. Because if you have a community base where 80% are Republicans and 20% Democrats, that is not competitive, I'm sorry. If you have instead a district that is competitive, it should be 50% Republican and 50% Democrats, so 51-49. This kind of stuff that is not too much exaggerated. In my opinion, that is the problem when you want a competitive district. And gerrymandering in some way tried to create safe districts, we can say, for some Democrats and some Republicans to say, hey, look, Democrat in Texas, you have Austin, you can take Austin. You have Houston, you can take Houston. I take all the ones that are more close to my idea. And the same in California, if you think. Eastern California, it's all Republican. Western California, it's all Democrat. It's also made in that way, if you can think about it. And so that is also the political reason why you created that, is to create good neighborhoods, if we can say. And another problem that I want to add to what Frank says, that at the local level, do you know now RFK is talking about the problem of Coke? The one regarding the corn syrup versus sugar. That could be in reality something that at the local level can move a lot of people. Because we have a lot of subsidies in sugar cane, a lot of subsidies in corn, and people can say, hey, you know why we cannot use sugar cane in this country for the Coke is because the subsidies in corn. And you can create some political leverage on that thing at the local level. Or you can create the opposite. You will have corn-based economy states that say we should eliminate the subsidies on sugar. To be honest, I would be happy as a quasi-libertarian person to see all the subsidies on sugar and corn be removed finally from the American agriculture. And we can see how much people will move despite being a slow think. But let's be honest, there are a lot of agricultural states in America that care a lot about that subsidies. And we cannot be lying about it.
Thank you for that, Claudia. And that, I think, gets us through Hump Day. It's just a humble bunch today. Stick around just for a few minutes. I would like some feedback here. Let me play the outro and hang tight. Here we go.
Hey, it's Rahul. Stunt double. That's a wrap. Join us tomorrow and kickstart your morning with us. Head over to postmorningshow.com and join us on the Post Morning Show. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. Pacific, 9 to 10 a.m. Central, 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern. Don't miss out. Join the conversation live at postmorningshow.com. See you there. Set your alarms, grab your coffee, and join the fun. Postmorningshow.com. See you bright and early.